Thank you everyone so much for coming today. I appreciate everyone for taking the time to be here with us. This is a really important topic, and I'm excited for what we have in store. So we are gathered here today as one community, one team, and one coalition. My name is Assemblyman Jake Blumencranz, and I'm excited that we're here in the heart of the 15th Assembly District in Locust Valley at Locust Valley High School to introduce our newest piece of legislation, the Our Schools, Our Rules Act. This bill puts the future of our schools back where it belongs, in the hands of our local communities. It has become all too common that Albany has been overreaching into our local affairs. This latest attempt is forced school district regionalization. This is an existential threat to everything that makes Long Island and its schools a great place to live. This bill ensures that we say no to one-size-fits-all mandates and yes to local communities in control. So let's break down what this bill does and what it means. We are going to protect local control from any state-mandated regionalization process and decisions about budgeting, governance, and programming, and say yes to our local school boards being in control where they belong. We're going to stop forced mergers. The Education Department's proposal would force schools and districts to share resources, services, and administrative operations, whether it makes sense for them or not. This bill ensures that no school will be forced to consolidate against its will. It prevents unfunded mandates. We all know that Albany loves to produce unfunded mandates and pass the buck onto our districts to figure it out. We say no more to this costly new burden to comply with these regionalization efforts. And we want to keep quality Long Island education local. Long Island schools have always led the way at being educational institutions of excellence, and our goal is to make sure we keep it that way. And we're going to preserve voluntary cooperation. This bill makes one thing crystal clear. This is not a voluntary mandate. We want to make sure that no school be forced to participate in state-run regionalization plans. It is simple. Local districts know what's best for their students and their communities. We pay our local school taxes to make sure we have the best educational systems in the nation, and we want to keep it that way. These regulations ignore the unique needs of the district that only our school boards, its administrators, and the individuals in the district would know. So I'll close with this. Long Islanders like us are proud of our districts. We're proud of our boards and the hard work that they do, and our administrators in the way that they keep our schools the best in the nation. And we will not stop until we know that that is something that is kept sacred here on Long Island. With that, I'd like to introduce my partner in government who is here today, as well as a few others. We're joined by Senator Steve Rhoads, Assemblyman Mike Durso, Assemblyman Jody Giglio, Councilwoman Michelle Johnson, as well as Legislator Samantha Getz. I will allow one of my partners to introduce the many school board members and superintendents who are also joining us here today, but I'd like to introduce you to Senator Jack Martins. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Assemblyman Blumencranz for really being the tip of the spear when it comes to putting this legislation together. I am proud to have sponsored the legislation and carrying it in the Senate. It's Senate Bill, Senate 9944, and it does exactly that. It ensures that our school districts will continue to be managed, operated, prioritized by locally elected school board members and locally selected superintendents. You know, I have the privilege of representing a Senate district that runs from the Queens line to the Suffolk line along the North Shore of Nassau County. 12 of the top 20 school districts in New York State happen to be in my Senate district. And folks, that doesn't happen organically. It doesn't happen by chance. It happens because we have school districts that prioritize education, communities that put the resources in place to do that, and communities that made decisions for themselves as to how that would happen. This isn't a cookie cutter operation. Each school district makes those decisions, and achieved excellence by tapping into those things that made that school district great. This proposal, passed on September 25th by our Board of Regents, is a disgrace. It takes away local control and imposes local control. Once again, an Albany top-down approach. Before it was with housing, we've seen it with transportation, now they've come after our kids, and we say no. Our school districts define our communities. Yes, we share resources. Every one of the school districts in my district right now shares resources and opportunities between themselves and others where they find efficiencies, save money, and get the most they can out of every dollar that they spend. That's a fact. And we see it because our children succeed in ways that are extraordinary. This is nothing less than an attack on our local communities. And all you have to see is that it was passed on September 25th. It has to be done by December 6th. It excludes some of the worst school districts in our state, the Big Five, that don't have to participate. And if this was such a great idea, why aren't they part of this? Because it's not about educating kids. It's not about our children. It's about promoting state top-down control that will destroy our quality of life and our education for our children and ensure a race to the bottom. I tell you, it's not going to happen. Thank you to all of you for being here, all of the educators, superintendents, school board association members, board members who are behind us, parents who came out, because if there's one thing that's worth fighting for, it's our kids, and we're going to get it done. God bless you. Thank you very much. And thanks to Blumencranz.
Thank you, Senator. And now I'd like to introduce Senator Steve Rhoads, who will also be fighting for this with us in Albany.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Assemblyman Blumencranz and Senator Martins, for certainly taking the lead on this incredibly important issue. We are very proud of the schools that we have here on Long Island, and very proud of the fact that we have local control of what happens, where government is closest to the people, where parents, where educators have a direct role in what happens in our local schools. And there's always I think the phrase is that wisdom is knowledge guided by experience. And so anytime I see a proposal out of the governor, anytime I see emergency action being taken by the state education department, I am naturally skeptical. And having watched the webinar, having spoken with many of my colleagues, including Senator Alexis White, who very much wanted to be here today, but unfortunately is unable to, we have a healthy skepticism of this proposal making the legislation introduced by Assemblyman Blumencranz and Senator Martins that much more necessary. And while they talk about this being a plan, while they talk about this being information that's compiled that ultimately will not be mandatory for school districts to participate, I have no confidence that that's actually going to take place. Because this is being done by state education department mandate, state education department mandates could just as easily change. And what was once voluntary can now become mandatory. And now when we're talking about shared services, and while this plan is being put together so, according to the state education department, they can better allocate resources, in the conversation of foundation aid, which is going to be taking place during this session, that same information can be used to determine winners and losers, giving the state education department and the governor a roadmap as to which districts can be cut and which districts need supplemental funding. That is the real danger in this, in addition to losing local control. And so I am proud to stand here today with my colleagues to fight to make sure that we maintain our local control by ensuring that participation in shared services is voluntary, that the focus is placed on the needs of our school districts as determined by our local school board officials and superintendents. That is incredibly important, and it's the best way to make sure that we maintain local control of what happens to our kids who are our top priority. So again, thank you, Senator Martins and Assemblyman Blumencranz.
you so much, Senator. Now I'd like to introduce Assemblyman Jody Giglio.
So I'll be brief in saying that the process is broken. The SAPA rules that is governing this process and circumventing the legislature, we, your elected officials, your school board elected officials, this SAPA process needs to be fixed. This happening at a critical time in New York State and throughout the country where we have elections and they think nobody's paying attention. Well, moms and dads throughout this country and especially in the state are paying attention. And they want what's best for their children. And you elect your legislators, and it's our job to protect you and your children. And the SAPA process needs to be fixed. This should not be done in the middle of the night when they think nobody is paying attention. And we've seen this time and time again. We saw it with COVID, with the mask mandates, with mandatory vaccinations, with emergency orders. And I couldn't agree with my colleague more. There's no reason for an emergency order. And if there is, a letter should be sent out to all of the members of the legislature in the state of New York, letting us know what they're doing behind closed doors. So thank you all for being today. Thank you to my colleague, Jake Blumencranz, and to Senator Martins, and for everyone being here today. This is a very important issue, and we got to keep fighting, and we will keep fighting for you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Now I'd like to invite another partner of mine in the New York State Assembly, Mike Durso.
Thank you, Assemblyman Blumencranz. Thank you for your leadership on this. Thank you, Senator Jack Martins, for putting forth this legislation. It's very simple. What this legislation does is keep local control in the hands of our local elected officials, our school board members. They are the closest to our schools. They are the closest to our children, and they know what's best for our districts. Once again, Albany is broken, not just SAPA. Albany is broken. What they love to do is circumvent the legislature, the Senate, the Assembly, and now they want to circumvent your local elected officials in your school districts. I'm proud to stand with Assemblyman Blumencranz and Senator Jack Martins, as we could say, not on our watch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Margaret Manor from the Board of Trustees here at Locust Valley, and also a member of the Coalition Foundation of School Boards. Just to briefly introduce some of the wonderful school members who are here today with us.
Thank you, Assemblyman Jake. I'm Margaret Marchand. I'm a Locust Valley Board Trustee, former president, and standing beside me is Mike Rich, president of Island Tree School District for the past 12 years. Mike and I and Kerry Wachter of Massapequa, the board president there for many years, met 4 years ago when we were faced with emergency regulations that left us with no wiggle room. And we had to follow those emergency regulations as elected board officials in our districts. This time, when we found this in the registry, we realized that they were using the exact same model, but this time they eliminated the Board of Education. So I am asking everybody, before I introduce who is here today, to understand that we have formed a coalition of New York State school board members. It is a voluntary organization, and we are the only ones standing up in the entire state for the school boards. And we are asking everybody who's listening or who has friends in the state to share out the information. The biggest thing that you can do is educate yourself on the SAPA process and the circumventing of the legislature. Here today, hosting us, is Dr. Kristen Turnow, Superintendent of Locust Valley. Thank you. I have a long list, so maybe we'll just hold to the end. Dr. Bill Brennan, Superintendent of Massapequa Schools. Joe Monastero, Superintendent of Cold Spring Harbor. Marie Testa, Superintendent of North Belmore. Locust Valley School Board members, President Lauren Themis, Vice President George Vassiliou, Trustees Holly Estevez and myself. Island Trees Board President Mike Rich. Cold Spring Harbor Vice President Heather Morante Young, Trustee Lisa Smith. Massapequa Trustee Daniela Kudo. East Meadow Vice President David Carl. Elwood Vice President Debbie Weiss. Roslyn President Merrill Waxman Ben-Levy. Plain Edge Vice President Mike Morrissey and Trustee Joe Garcia. Hicksville Trustee Linda Imbriale. Jericho trustee Sam Perlman and trustee Jen Varnatov, and former trustees from Carl Place, Joe Locurdo, and Cold Spring Harbor, Joe Morante. We have a letter that is circulating since Tuesday. We are up to 120 individual board members who have signed, representing 23 districts. And just this morning, we have another 4 districts that are signing on. This is imperative that your school boards know about this, and the letter is in complete rebuttal of what BOCES, New York State School Boards Association, and the Nassau-Suffolk School Board Association is telling the parents and the unions. They are not telling you the truth. Go read the regulations. So I thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce Dr. Kristen Turnow, Superintendent of Locust Valley Schools.
Thank you. I first want to just express my sincere gratitude to Senator Jack Martins for being here, and Jake Blumencranz, our Assemblyman, and all the other legislators that have joined us here today at the Locust Valley High School. As your superintendent of the Locust Valley School District, I am deeply concerned about the state's recent emergency regulation mandating school districts to engage in discussions about resource sharing. Our Board of Education has eloquently articulated their concerns regarding this regionalization plan. While the state requests data that they already possess, repackaged in a special format, I want to emphasize that our students are not mere data points. Only our dedicated educators and administrators truly understand the unique needs of the children they serve daily. The state has acknowledged the growing social and emotional needs of our students and the necessities for personalized support. I contend that each support cannot be achieved by sharing resources. Our educators and leaders forge invaluable relationships with our students, starting from kindergarten and nurturing them throughout their academic journey. These relationships are essential for providing the necessary support that each child needs and deserves. Moreover, asking our teachers to educate students from other districts is highly impractical. Schools operate on diverse schedules, calendars, and policies. How can our teachers adhere to multiple district regulations, particularly ones that may conflict with their own, such as our own policy here at Locust Valley, which prohibits the use of cell phones? This is unreasonable, and it's an unfair demand of our educators. This forced conversation diverts precious time from our educators and school leaders who should be focused on developing innovative programs to benefit our students. The only true emergency is to unite and to inform New York State that we, our teachers and school leaders, know our students best. We comprehend their complexities and the needs of our communities, and this emergency plan is not a democratic solution. It is important to remember that our schools are more than just buildings and classrooms. They are the heart of our communities, fostering growth, learning, and a sense of belonging. This emergency regulation threatens to undermine that. We must stand together to protect our schools and our students. We must advocate for policies that support our educators, empower our students, and strengthen our communities. Let's make it clear to the state that we will not compromise the quality of education for our children. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I'd also like to call up Superintendent Joe Monastero from Cold Spring Harbor School District to say a few words as well.
All right, thank you everyone for coming today. As you can hear from everybody, we're looking to make sure we retain our local control over our school districts. It's so important that our Board of Education, our superintendents, our teachers, and our parents have a say in what goes on in our schools. It's so important it stays right here that we run our schools the way we need to run our schools. As said many times before, we have local communities, they're unique upon themselves. We want to retain it that way. Thank you very much.
I'd also like to recognize Mike Harrington, from the superintendent of the Belmore Merrick School District, who would like to say a few words as well.
No, just that he's here.
No, just that I would like to recognize that he's here as well. But I'd like to invite up Marilee Ben Levy from the Roslyn School District.
On behalf of the Roslyn School District, I want to thank very much our Senator Jack Martins and the other legislators who are here today for taking the initiative to protect our local control. It is critically important that we retain this. I'm a 20-year veteran. This is my 20th year in public service to my community. And I did that with all the love and devotion in my heart to my community. Any job worth doing is worth doing right, and do not question the heart of the volunteers on our local school boards. They are the heart of our community, they are the heart of our families, and we will do everything for our children. So thank you very much for coming and for paying very close attention to this issue. Hear what is said, but watch what is done. It is very, very important that we all stay on the ready and on the alert, because I don't see the emergency, and I have asked everyone what it is, and no one seems to be able to answer the question. I'd like an answer to that question. We have a comment period. We're all going to submit comments, but we're also asking questions that should be very simply answered, and they're not being answered. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I thank everyone here who has taken the time and used their talent for good and for the good of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, and lastly, I'd just like to invite up the president of the school board here at Locust Valley, Lauren Themis, to say a few words.
Thank you, Assemblyman Blumencranz, Senator Martins, all of the elected officials that are joining us here today, our administrators, board members, and also our union partners here in Locust Valley. At the Locust Valley, as a Locust Valley Board of Education president, it is my responsibility to protect the district I serve. And there has been a lot of information that has been put out throughout the state, particularly by the New York State Education Department, alluding to the ideas of mere conversations around this regionalization approach. They have gone as far as to state that the New York State Education Department website this morning that participation in these plans may be optional. The language in the regulation published on October 23rd is very clear. In addition, the regulation published on September 25th is very clear. This is not merely a conversation, but a requirement of the component school district as outlined by the New York State Ed Department in the only legal document that has been provided to us, which is the regulation in the New York State Register. In that document is the complete absence of three very important words: Board of Education. It is not found one time in that regulation, although we are the only elected officials within the actual school districts, including additional language outlining investigations that may occur in our buildings carried out by BOCES superintendents, and really no choice to opt out of these regionalization process and planning. If this was merely a conversation or an idea, again, we'd like to know what is the emergency. And for decades, we have been working as a partner with BOCES, collaborating, sharing services, sharing resources. These have all been at the discretion of the Board of Education, all signed on contract by the Board of Education. Protecting the autonomy of our school districts is paramount. Protecting the individual needs of our student populations is paramount. And protecting the rights of our elected Board of Education members is paramount. And so I ask and share that it is imperative that each and every district and taxpayer in the state of New York, they stand up and say no to this regionalization plan, and I ask you all to support our schools, our rules act. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you to everyone, all of our parents, our teachers, our school board members, our representatives, our superintendents, everyone who came here today to voice your concerns. We are listening, we are fighting back, and I hope everyone has a very safe and happy Halloween. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, we're more than happy to answer those as well.
Questions? All right. Our schools, our rules. Our schools, our rules. Our schools, our rules. Our schools, our rules. Our schools, our rules.
Our schools, our rules.
Our schools, our rules. Thank you, everyone.
No, I don't. I work for the county, so yeah. Yeah, I met with you last time, right?
Yes, I
one
met
of
you at the courthouse.
mass.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was.
See you again.
Yes. Thank you for everything that the senator does. Yes.
Thank you for showing up.
Yeah, I was broadcasting to Chinese community.
I wish I could control the wind.
That is.